thank you for your attendance this evening. I have been advised at our last meeting that our clock is currently 6:04, almost 6:05. 6:05 is probably the right time. The clock is probably about 5 minutes fast. So thank you for being here. Welcome to our meeting of May 16th. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Downey.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Kidd.
Here.
Councilmember Brooke.
Present.
Councilmember Collins.
Here.
Councilmember Gase.
I'm here.
Councilmember Meredith.
Here.
Councilmember Wedham.
Here.
Manager McKean.
Here.
Attorney Bloor.
Here.
I'd like to invite Councilmember Brad Collins to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a real opportunity this evening to share together a proclamation and an award. I invite you to join us. Going to invite Chief Kim Dubuque, Fire Chief, Police Chief Ryan Smith, and they will invite further others to join us at the dais. I'm going to stay sat here because I have some mobility issues, and so use the mic.
So hi, I'm Ken, I'm the fire chief, and I am really proud to be here tonight to assist with the presentation of the award. But I'm not going to present it. I wasn't at the scene of this incident that occurred. However, Captain Jamie Mason, who's up there in a very attractive red jacket, was, and they don't let me ride around in big red trucks anymore. So Captain Mason was there, and so I am going to ask Captain Mason to come down and introduce our award recipient and read this award, and then he will give you a little background on what happened and why we're presenting this award. So, Captain Mason.
Good evening, everybody. We're actually here tonight to recognize Julie Sexton. She's receiving this award for a call that we ran on April 10th. And so we'd like to present these things to her, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what happened. Julie, come on down. So we have a couple things here. We have a Citizen Life-Saving Award presented to Julie Sexton, so I'm going to let you have that. And then Brian Scott, this is way pretty. Yeah. Citizen Service Medal. It's the highest award. It's awarded by the police department for civilians. So congratulations. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened. On April 10th, just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a gentleman was in a parking lot on Front Street and had a cardiac event. He went into cardiac arrest. Basically, his heart stopped beating and he stopped breathing. His vehicle that he was driving at the time, went across the parking lot that he was in, across Front Street, and then into a ravine. Fortunately, there were some trees there that stopped his vehicle from going down. I think we have a picture. Kind of show you what the scene looked like here. This is really dark. You can't see very well.
It's foggy and snowing.
Yeah.
Well, if you can imagine, the truck kind of angled down into a ravine. It didn't go the rest of the way down because there were a couple trees, but that ravine went down about 80 feet. So the gentleman is not breathing, he's unconscious, his heart stopped beating, his foot is still on the accelerator, but the back tires are off the ground. So it's just high revving. Yeah, there you can see it. So Julie sees this happening, and she stops and gets out of her vehicle and goes over and notices that he's behind the wheel. She opens the truck door, climbs inside, pulls his foot off the accelerator, and then there were some other people around just kind of standing there watching, kind of encouraged them to help you get him out, got him out of the vehicle, and began performing CPR on him. Got 911 initiated. We showed up. That's some of my crew there. We did a whole bunch of fancy EMS stuff to the guy and got a heartbeat back after probably 15 minutes. I found out today that as of April 11th, he's awake and he's home and walking and talking. So it's because of you. So congratulations. Well done.
Dan Gase just whispered in me, it will be hard to top that award presentation, but I am pleased. Forgive me, I do have some mobility issues. I'm going to stay sat here, but I would like to invite here to the dais Susie Bennett from the Lower Elwha Tribal Office, Heritage Center. I think I saw her. If she could come forward and Kate Gravy from Peninsula College, and two of you.
And Ms. Happendorf from Peninsula College.
Okay, anybody else? Susie, you can come down here too. Susie, I know to be very shy, but come over here. Forgive me, I would normally stand with this. So, we in our community are very fortunate to have a celebrity or two. Probably one of the most noteworthy is the writer, poet, and essayist Raymond Carver. And Raymond Carver has been a part of our fabric of our community. His wife and a great writer on her own, Tess Gallagher. Is Tess here?
She couldn't be here.
Let me read to you the proclamation of Raymond Carver Day on May 25th in recognition of the profound contribution of Raymond Carver. Whereas Raymond Carver, the internationally recognized short story writer, poet, and essayist, made his home in Port Angeles for the last 10 years of his life, and he came to his final resting place in Ocean View Cemetery on August 2nd, 1988. Whereas Carver wrote many of his incomparable poems and stories in Port Angeles while sharing his life with his wife, poet and writer Tess Gallagher, who was born in Port Angeles, and brought him here to live, write, and enjoy the mountains and rivers, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the two of them enjoyed together the joys of fishing and hunting. Whereas he wrote about the many local places he loved here, where he fished, looked out upon the local waters, gave voice to the people he met here and championed their working class lives in the Northwest and in Port Angeles and in Clallam County in particular, honoring those who struggle and don't always reach the rewards of the so-called American dream. Those who become homeless, those who work hard but can't pay their bills, those who are skilled or unskilled, who labor in jobs without much of an honor or often with inadequate wages and without health insurance. Whereas he honors those he used to call middle-class America, those who try but fail, those with debts accumulating even though they try to pay their way, those who strive and dream to raise children, try to make and try to take care of each and every one of them. Whereas he made these people, places, rivers, bodies of water belong to America's most revered and world-renowned literature. Because of him, our corner of the world can be known as, quote, Carver country. And so it appears on all the literary maps which honor his characters and this place he loved. Whereas we acknowledge the indebtedness for Carver's seeing deeply the nature of the lives of our citizens who were not well represented in literature prior to his work. Whereas he wrote in a way which is accessible to so many, poignant enough to touch their hearts in every corner of the world, and published in 28 languages. Whereas he was born on May 25th, 1938, and this date is evermore his, each year to be honored in this city of Port Angeles, which he loved and to which he gave certain stature. Now therefore, I, Patrick Downey, Mayor, on behalf of the City Council of Port Angeles, do hereby approve Raymond Carver Day to be celebrated on May 25th each year, so that the City Council may itself be nurtured by his poetry. Tess Gallagher requests that, quote, late fragment, end quote, and quote, where waters come together with other water, be read at this proclamation.
That's us.
That's us.
That's you.
Yes.
So, with that said, I will turn this portion of the program to the two of you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we're going to read these in the opposite order that they were mentioned. I'm going to read Where Water Comes Together with Other Water, one of his more famous nature poems that really is about this area, and is one of the poems that was inspired about the natural beauty of living here. So here it is, Where Water Comes Together with Other Water. I love creeks and the music they make, and rills in glades and meadows before they have a chance to become creeks. I may even love them best of all for their secrecy. I almost forgot to say something about the source. Can anything be more wonderful than a spring? But the big streams have my heart too, and the places streams flow into rivers, the open mouths of rivers where they join the sea, the places where water comes together with other water. Those places stand out in my mind like holy places. But these coastal rivers, I love them the way some men love horses or glamorous women. I have a thing for this cold, swift water. Just looking at it makes my blood run and my skin tingle. I could sit and watch these rivers for hours. Not one of them like any other. I'm 45 years old today. Would anyone believe it if I said I was once 35? My heart empty and sear at 35. 5 more years had to pass before it began to flow again. I'll take all the time I please this afternoon before leaving my place alongside this river. It pleases me loving rivers, loving them all the way back to their source, loving everything that increases me.
Thank you, Bruce. And I'm going to read Late Fragment. And did you get what you wanted from this life, even so? I did. And what did you want? To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth. So Tess Gallagher wanted me to thank the mayor and the city council and all of you for this deep honor, and also to invite you to please come out to the cemetery, to his graveside, all of you, and particularly the mayor, on May 25th, the first annual Raymond Carver Day at 3:30, and also possibly Jennifer Van Clausen, the city clerk, because she's been so helpful to us in this process. So thank you, it's been an honor to be here.
And there will be poetry and pie that day.
Thank you, all of you, for participating. As I've said numerous times and again today, this is one of my favorite parts of our meeting. Such a pleasure to be able to share in the joy and the celebration of life, saving of life, the living of life. So we're going to, we have a bit of time before we have a public hearing tonight that needs to begin as close to 6:30 or soon thereafter, but we have a bit of time. So I'm going to, for 15 minutes, I'm going to, well, up to 15 minutes. I have a list of names, a few names that would invite to the podium to offer public comment. First on the list is Matt Acker. Nice to have you here, Matt.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of the Lefties and Mac Athletics, we wanted to first show gratitude and appreciation working at the city. It's been phenomenal. Corey and Nathan have been outstanding. The city council, the support has been great, and there's so many to thank within the city for us, and we wanted to show that appreciation. We plan on asking lots of you to come out and throw a first pitch for us at one time or another. But for our first game, Mayor Downey, we'd like you to do it. So I brought you a ball. Everybody's to sign this for you.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And you got your arm warmed up.
All right, I will.
First game, you're on.
I will be there. I will try my very best to be there.
June 1st.
June 1st at 6:30, I believe the game starts.
6:35. You're throwing at 6:30.
6:30?
Right after the air.
All right, thank you. Eric?
I think he's a lefty.
Well, and those of you who know me well, I am left-handed, and I consider this a privilege and an honor. Thank you. John Ralston.
Good evening, John Ralston, P.O. Box 898, Port Angeles. Just a short comment. Certainly support the transportation benefit district. Acronym TBD. I'm going to recommend that that the city consider strongly changing from TBD. When I hear the words TBD, it's to be determined, to be decided, leaves some question as to what's going on. I also looked at some other things about what could be that. Could be discontinued, 10 business days, trial by declaration. How about tick-borne disease? Anyway, I'd recommend that you at some point consider the acronym to be TRBD. Thank you.
Thank you, George. The last name I have on this list for this first public comment period is Young Johnson.
Young Johnson, 410 East Front. I just wanted to take a minute and nothing long, I won't scare you guys, speak to the Public Utility District, Medical Utility, District, regarding our firefighters. You know, I'm very emotional about this. Any amount of tax increase, fee increase, anything, I just feel like some days, you know, you feel so overtaxed with everything. You don't even want to get out of bed to face it. And I know many people feel like their utility bills, their taxes, you know, everything is just out of control. This, I'm just going to approach from a very simple, practical view. I'm not even going to talk about how great our firefighters are, how great Ken Dubuque and his people are, and how helpful they've been to me and the community. I'm just going to approach it from the practical view. So if our rating goes from a 4 to a 5, there's going to be an increase. it's a given. Your homeowner's insurance is going to go up. Our business insurance is going to go up. You're going to pay more. So I just kind of look at it like this. If I'm going to pay a higher rate in insurance for my business and my home, heck, I want something to show for it. So this is, I think, our first step in getting things back up to par where it should be. And something maybe we didn't feel like was within our budget and our control that we could maintain. But it's been so long, it's way overdue. So me personally, aside from the fact that I'm in love with our fire department and our police department, that aside, just from a practical view, if I'm going to pay a higher rate for anything, I'd rather pay a higher rate than the minimal nominal fee it's going to cost me for 4 extra firefighters.
Thank you, Young. We have about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Just enough time to provide, before we begin our public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to take this opportunity for 3 minutes? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move forward. Is there any late items to be placed on this or future agendas, either from council members or staff? Mr. Wedding. And then Mr. McKee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 weeks ago during our last council session, I brought up the idea that going forward after filing week has ended, that all candidates for city council be given a full, complete printed packet available for all public meetings with the city council. I see it did make it into the meeting minutes, yet I don't see anything acknowledging that in writing, I guess, that'll be available. So how do I proceed?
Actually, Councilmember Whittam and council, we started approximately a month and a half ago and started putting together binders for all the new council candidates. In fact, we did it during the last election period also. And we're going to be a little bit more sophisticated this time. So in the binders, there will be contact information for myself and all the directors. There will be additional information on where they can go and get the full budget and other items that are really important to the city, as well as a sheet that has some of the major current events that are going on in the city. They'll have a copy of the work plan, and they'll also have a copy of all of the different departments, the organizational charts, and a thumbnail sketch of what all the departments do. And again, there will be an index where they can get additional information. So I plan on, after filing week is over, I plan on getting a hold of all the council candidates that have filed, meeting with them, giving them the binder, making myself available as time allows, going through Carrie to be able to answer any questions they have. And there are a couple reasons for that. The first reason is that I thought about, if I was a council candidate, what would be important to me? And I'll be really frank, I want to look like I know what I'm talking about. So to give them the information of what's going on will be very valuable for that. But a more fundamental reason than even that is that it's fair to the community. It's important that the council candidates understand the issues going on in the city. Then they can give their views on those issues during debate and when they talk to citizens, so citizens can gauge kind of how they feel about the way they answer those questions. It will help them in their voting. So that is going on. It's going to be a fairly extensive process. And again, we did it a couple years ago, and it's going to be even that much better this time.
Thank you, Mr. McKean. Again, it wasn't in writing. I had to mention it. I'm glad this came forward. It sounds like we definitely have a plan in place this election cycle. Thanks again.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just wanted to follow up and thank staff. I remember as a candidate for city council in 2007 coming to the city manager's office and as a candidate asking for a packet and being refused very firmly. And I stood my ground and I repeatedly made my request, and I was told that they had to ask about it. I suspect they may have been afraid I would go to the PDM, but regardless, it came about, and ever since then, we have, every election, we've been given, candidates have been given packets, and this year it's expanded with a lot of information, and I want you to know I really appreciate it, because all of us here as elected officials have been candidates, and we need information, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. I did leave out one very important part too. After I do meet with the candidates, then we will start emailing or providing those candidates everything the council gets, with the exception of executive session materials. But outside of that, the candidates will receive all the packets, will receive the emails, just everything the council gets, so that they're aware of the issues, and hopefully those that are successful can, to a certain degree, start running when they show up for their first meeting.
Thank you.
I'd just like to follow up Councilmember Kidd's comments that when I ran 4 years ago, it was still hit and miss with being provided the data. So I'm glad to hear that we have a definite plan in effect going forward.
Mr. McCain, you had raised your hand also.
Have nothing.
Were you going to make a comment about the EDC?
I will get that in just a moment. We have reached 6:31. We do need to be respectful of those that may be here for 2 public hearings, first of which is an ordinance proposing adjustments to the medical and utility fee to be followed by a capital facilities plan. These are continuations of public hearings held at our previous council meeting, the first of which can be found on F1 in our packet. So, Matt, again, thank you very much. Has anybody ever gone undefeated in the West Coast League?
No.
First time for everything we do.
We'll do our best. That'd be impressive.
Okay, so with that, Ken,
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Again, tonight, I'm going to just speak very briefly. At the last council meeting, I provided a presentation which outlined the history behind our proposed adjustments to the medical and fee, the reasons why we were looking to do that, the amount that we were looking to make the adjustments for, how it was going to impact the public, and how we've gotten to where we've gotten and why. Tonight, what we would be asking would be that you conduct a second reading of the ordinance, and then a public hearing, and then hopefully adopt the attached ordinance. So in the interim period of time, since I met with you last week, or 2 weeks ago, we've done a number of things. So first of all, we continued with our public outreach. We met with Young's group there, the Port Angeles Downtown Association, met with the Lions Club. We talked a lot about what we were doing and what we were planning. And we also made some minor adjustments to the rates based on input that we had received in the interim period of time. So if you remember, at the last meeting, I did mention the fact that there were some concerns that were brought forward by the Housing Authority based on the fact that the population that they serve is the most needy population in the city. There were some issues with them. I met with the city manager, and based on some council direction that we've received before, we've implemented a phase-in for the increases for the Housing Authority, which is now acceptable to them. And so that works out for them, it works out for everyone. At the same time, we also recognized the fact that we had made a commitment when we moved forward with this program that there would be no impact to the general fund. And as was brought up and mentioned by one of the council members of the Utility Advisory Committee, when I brought this forward, it looked like there was an impact upon the city, because the city pays into the medical and utility as well. And so what we did was we made some adjustments as well so that the impact of the general fund is not there. So both of those adjustments that were made to the rates equate to about 3%, I'm sorry, a 3-cent per month increase on the residential and commercial sides. Also, so those are the only changes that have been made. Those changes are reflected in the ordinance that you received in your packet. Everything else is as it was presented to you 2 weeks ago. But I thought I'd take this opportunity just for a second to let you know what else has happened in the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, we've responded to about 210 calls for service. That equates to about 15 calls per day. We went to falls, we went to motor vehicle accidents, we went to responses for persons with drugs and alcohol issues, we went to trauma calls, we went to strokes, a whole bunch of chest pain calls, a whole lot of shortness of breath calls, a lot of seizures, a lot of fire alarms, a lot of illegal fires, fuel spills, response to a lot of fire alarms. It has been incredibly busy. 15 calls a day, every day. We also, during that time, managed to squeeze in Sparky Week, which for the 83rd year in a row, we brought every second grader in Port Angeles to the station. We went to 6 grammar schools. We brought 323 children to the fire station during one of those weeks, taught them about fire prevention, took their teachers up in the very scary ladder truck. It was a lot of fun, but over 300 children. We taught 2 CPR classes. We taught a bunch of people how to do CPR. We installed 48 smoke detectors in various homes around the city. And we somehow also managed to provide 144 hours of paramedic preceptor training for paramedic students through the department. All of this was done by a group of truly outstanding personnel who work for the fire department. I could sit here and I could brag about them for the next 27 days if you wanted me to. I would never get everything done or everything said that I would want to say about them. They are incredible. They do an absolutely fantastic job, and we truly appreciate their support. But then, so I'm thinking about this, and I'm realizing, it's a team effort. And yeah, I could sit here and I could brag about the fire department, but that would be truly unfair to the other people sitting around me. I look at what legal does. They're dealing with all this stuff with the Park Service and the harbor. I look at what Dan's doing every day, and he jumped out of the frying pan in the fire department and directly into a blast furnace in the city manager's office. I look at finance. I could never have put together the numbers without finance's help, and I wish Glenn's here because he's forgotten more about finance than I'll ever known in my entire life. I look at Craig and his crews are out there paving and painting and doing all the stuff that they're doing, and you don't have to open the paper for more than 10 seconds before you see Nathan West's picture there and some of the stuff that his department's doing. Corey's folks and the lefties, if you look at the field lately, it's insane. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. It's crazy. So anyway, I would be remiss if I didn't say the fact that it's a team effort in this city. The fire department is proud to be part of that team, and again, we appreciate it. Oh, yeah, the cops. I guess the cops have been busy too. They've been busy too. They've done a couple of things. I don't know. Whatever. I remember there's a donut shortage. Whatever. But no. Look at the town hall meeting last week. That town hall meeting that was all arranged by the police department, and they do an absolutely phenomenal job. And it's just been incredible. And again, we are just very proud to be a part of that team. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So let me read the ordinance, and then we'll open up, we will continue the public hearing. An ordinance of the City of Port Angeles, Washington, amending Title 13, Chapter 13.73 of the Port Angeles Municipal Code relating to Medic 1 utility rates. I invite those of you in the audience who wish to speak on this topic to come forward and state your name and address for the record. I will ask again if there's anybody who would wish to speak on this matter. Please feel free to do so at this time before I close the public hearing. Okay, with that, council members, the time is yours to share comments, questions, and let's suggest this very important matter. Lee and then Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to tip my hat this evening to all the staff, and in particular Chief Dubuque, for conducting this discussion with the public. I think it was well laid out. From what I have heard and listened to from members of our community, this is supported Again, we heard it this evening from the business community, as well as the regular folks that pay the bills here in town. So it makes perfect business sense to me, so I will be supporting the 4 new firefighter paramedics going forward.
Mr. McKinney, excuse me, Mr. Gates.
Almost got a promotion. I also would echo those sentiments. 3 years and 8 months ago, I took a seat on the city council. There's 2 things that were more important to me than anything else. One was to get to see the police department staffed up so that they would have the people they needed to do their jobs. And the other item was the firefighters, to try to see something come about, because the public was calling for that. It was a very, very high priority, and I just want to congratulate you for all the great work putting this together and making it all happen with all of your cohorts, including your friend, the police officers. And I will be strongly supporting this.
Deputy Mayor Kim.
I feel that our priority as council members is serving the public, is keeping the public safe. Public safety, I feel, is our #1 priority. And there is no more important phone number in our town than 911. It's not a number you want to call, but in an emergency, when someone's life is at stake, you call for help, and you need help now. And we need the response time to be there, we need the personnel to be there, our community, our entire community. I mean, this cuts across every socioeconomic level. It doesn't matter what your title is. If you're bleeding, if you fall down, if you have a heart attack, we call 911 for you and for me. So this is so important. Our fire department has done an admirable job. They're currently working overtime, a lot of overtime, and that's pushing them physically to their limits, but they have to do that now to serve the increasing needs of our community. So I think the most important thing we can do to support our citizens and our growing community is to support the public safety that has to grow along with our community. So I want to thank them for the superb job that they do, but we have to enable them to do it without the overtime, night after night hours that run them down physically. We have to have adequate personnel. So I will fully support this. And I looked at the increase, and it looks like it'll be an increase of $2.50 a month on my Medic One bill and my utility bills. Our family is glad to make that additional contribution for the sense of safety for our family, our neighborhood, and our community. I had one question, and just kind of segues into the utility bills. Mr. Fulton, 18 months ago, the city council was given a report for estimated costs from electric use from BPA, and we have had 2 5% incremental increases this year and last year in the electric utilities. So I'm just asking for a review of that, because sometimes what the estimate was in 2015, I just would like a review if there's any way that it would just be nice if we could find some way to decrease that. So I just would ask for a review, because our utility bills are so high. This is adding to it, we need this, but if we could just have a review of that, those 2 5% increases, because it was based on 2015 facts, so I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, we're due for a cost of service analysis for COSA for the electric.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the council? Right.
Well, the most difficult thing on the city budget is on our personnel, which makes it very difficult to increase staffing when we're actually trying to cut everything. And I think one of the things that's evident here is that in order for us to make these staffing increases, we need to ask citizens if they'll support that, and that's what we do with the 91 utility. And I'm very hopeful that they will see, like Young, that this is something that is cost effective, because you pay if you don't approve, and that given our demands for services, these increases would be extremely timely at this point. So I hope the community will support this.
Seems apparent to me that we really have a win-win situation here. Yes, it's true. When you open up your bill, pay our utility bills in the coming months, there will be an increase. But when I see that increase, and Sherry is right, and represents about $2.50 more a month for the Downey household, and some more for businesses, owners like Young Johnson and so on, or places like Parkview Villas, St. Andrew's Place, where my mother was a resident. What I've heard in the last several meetings we've had, both internally as well in public meetings, we as citizens of this city value each other's life. I don't know how to calculate. It's incalculable, the value of a life. It really is. The life that may be lost because a public health safety officer wasn't able to be there in time. Or that life has been burdened with further hospitalization costs, or just in so many different ways. It's impossible to measure those numbers. $2.50 a month, or a few dollars more a month for business people like Young. What a small price to pay for life. Thank you for those of you who have expressed your opinion to us. I would welcome a motion to adopt this ordinance. I can read it again if you wish, but
Mr. Mayor, go ahead and make a motion that we approve the ordinance as read.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further comments? All those in favor of it, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? No, it passes unanimously.
Thank you, Fire Department. Thanks for all you do.
Also, this evening, our second public hearing, capital facilities plan, will be continuing the public hearing. We'll be conducting a second reading, and then we will reach a point where we'll be seeking approval for a resolution. So, Kate, Tessa.
Hi, I'm Tess Agason, Senior Accountant for the city. There were just a couple changes from the last time we presented the plan, so I just quickly wanted to go over those. All of the changes reduced the expected expenditures. We reduced a couple IT projects and moved one forward into 2017. And based on what we told you we would do in not creating any new debt, this will create a savings in that project of about $40,000. Two of the server projects for later in the plan were dropped completely based on the new server costs that we have and their ability to cover the things we wanted them to cover. So that was a reduction of about $300,000 and some thousand. And we also put on hold the replacement of the Laurel Street stairs because those were stated to be funded from grants, but the grant has not been secured. So that's $350,000 construction has been placed into the parking lot. We will go ahead with the design portion that we talked about in the previous plan. But we're going to hold until we actually have funding before we actually put it into say we're going to spend the money. There were some other minor issues in the publication document, some items that were not totaling exactly right, or we wanted to round them instead of have them go up to the nearest dollar. So we rounded dollars amounts to the 100. And just some presentation information. Probably the most major change was misclassification of a revenue where we had stated the wastewater fund, the solid waste fund would be investing $474,000 and it's actually coming from a grant. So it improved the cash flow in that area and on those graphs and charts. So other than that, the plan is as stated the last time we went through. Thank you.
Any members of the council have a question of Tess at this point? Okay, let me read the resolution and then I will continue the public hearing. It is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Angeles, Washington, adopting the city's capital facilities plan for 2018 through 2023, which includes the city's transportation improvement program for the years 2018 through 2023. And I will now continue the public hearing. Again, I invite any of you in the audience who wish to comment on this matter. The time is now yours. You are very quiet. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I will, for the sake of expediency, I will close the public hearing and invite the council members to further discuss the matter amongst ourselves before we reach a motion. Anybody, Lee and Sissy?
I'd like to touch on the comment that we heard during public comment of the acronyms that we use. Nathan, I think a lot of these acronyms that are in use are set out and recognized by the state legislature, is that correct?
That is correct, many of them are.
Yeah, so the CFP, TIP, TBD, these are acronyms, again, that are recognized by our state legislature when they're enacting all of the laws that we work under. So they're not our choice of acronyms to use. That, again, is just recognized language that we have to use.
Yeah, I just want to make the comment that I'm glad we're moving forward with this. This is something that the city desperately needs. Our roads desperately need our support. So I move that we pass this resolution as written.
And I would wholeheartedly second that motion.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to, technologically challenged this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Right, do you have something before we? Motion has been made, let's hear it. Any questions or comments?
Okay, it's one of the things we have to be mindful of is that when we pass the capital facilities plan, that it represents a capital facilities budget as well. And when we get to the budget in December, this is a major portion of what the taxpayers have to bear. So one of the things, it's my recollection that the transportation improvement program is required by state law to be completed by July, is that correct? And oftentimes we're running up against those time deadlines. And I just think that we're ahead of the game here. I think this is the earliest time I remember of these coming to the council. Usually it is in June. And so I think that's great. Oftentimes we feel like we're trying to make a decision, we're up against the last minute deadline. Here, if we had some questions, we could talk about it some more. I'm in support of the CFP and the TIP. I think it's really critical if at some point we go forward with a transportation benefit district, which is that TBD acronym, to have laid out a very good plan for the voters to understand where those monies go. So I'm very supportive of this motion.
Any further comments or questions before I call for the question? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion passes unanimously. So we're going to take a step back in our agenda, go back to the consent agenda, and it'll be a little bit unorthodox this evening for I think pretty good reasons. One of which is, I please note that on consent agenda item 1, City Council meetings on May 2nd, 2017, I've been advised there is a correction. I should note that to petition to reclassify as a second-class city ballot resolution, number, what started out as resolution 12-17, has been changed to 11-17, so please make a note of that. I would wish to make a note on consent agenda item E4, Opportunity Fund Advisory Board appointment. Just because she's been such a key and enthusiastic member of our community for many years, I want to recognize in the audience this evening John Brewer, who has been nominated and recommended to be appointed to the Fund Advisory Board, Opportunity Fund Advisory Board. John, thank you for being here. I could speak to his resume. Many of you know John as the former publisher of the newspaper here. More recently served as the president of the Ordinance Business Association, and continues to be an active member of our community. Thank you, John, for your willingness to serve. Secondly, if I may pull from the consent agenda, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to make an exception. Consent agenda item 6, Clallam County Economic Development Corporation's 2017 contract. We also are privileged to have with us this evening the new EDC Executive Director, Bob Schroeder, who I'm going to invite to come to the podium for a moment here, if you would, Bob, and share just briefly a little bit about yourself. We want to welcome you to our community, and so the public knows a little bit more about you and what you're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I hand out a package to the council?
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you. Mayor, Deputy members of council, my name is Bob Schroeder. I have the privilege to stand before you after having seen a very successful early council meeting. As the new Clallam County Economic Development Corporation CEO and Executive Director, I've been here for many, many days. Total of about 12 at this point. So that the experience that Mr. Brewer brings to you, I do not bring to this local community, but I'm very excited to bring what I have to the table. I spent the last 30 years as a city attorney out of Lewis County, as a private business owner in Lewis County. I've also spent a number of years as the Director of Operational Support for the State Liquor and Cannabis Board, and most recently as the Executive Director of the Washington Association of Conservation Districts. So it's the biggest pleasure of my professional career to be before you here today and look at some of the exciting things we can do economically here for Clallam County. I was very, very excited to come into this room today after a lengthy executive session. I got to tell you, as a former city attorney, it's a lot easier being up here than to be up there advising you. But as I walked into the room, I saw up in a beautiful frame the 2003-03 resolution that this council, your predecessors, passed and that is on economic development, also passed by your compadres, both in Forks as well as in Swim. So here we have 3 city councils 14 years ago recognizing the value and importance of collaborating together on economic development. That still is true today. We're going to continue the work that has been successfully done by the EDC over the past number of years in retaining businesses, attracting new businesses when possible to this region. A couple of things we're going to bring that are a little bit new. One of those is going to be the outreach to nonprofits. And nonprofits are oftentimes businesses themselves. To provide opportunities for nonprofits to learn things about legal formation. Are they running board meetings the correct way? Are there opportunities for them to do things differently, more lean, more efficiently? That's something that we can assist nonprofits in this community in doing. And that's going to be something new. And lastly, and it was mentioned a few moments ago, and you're a very big part of this, you're dealing with the issues up front. You're not hiding them away. You dealt with the opiate crisis here last week. I spent a career dealing with its predecessor, methamphetamine, in my communities. I represented clients for many years with affliction, addiction. You're dealing with that issue, and economic development is part and parcel of that. People look when they're about to bring a larger business to a community or whether they're going to stay in a community, they look for leaders to be addressing problems. And that's what you're doing, opening up the door, listening to viewpoints, and trying to find solutions to very critical issues. We are going to be a part of that. We are going to be engaged in those conversations because a healthy economy requires a healthy community and a healthy population. So you're going to see us a lot more engaged, and I have the pleasure of visiting the Port Angeles Food Bank and the wonderful, wonderful executive director. Some of the work that is being done in this community, in Swim, and throughout the peninsula, we're going to be there to support, to make this as great a community as it can be. I'm here to answer any questions, but we look forward to this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Any members of the council have a question? Sissy.
Well, not so much a question, but I want to welcome you, and also that it's always good to have someone else take a look from the outside in, and now slowly become part of the inside. So I do look forward to seeing your point of view and how things change, because I know this is an important group, and in the past I've probably been one of the most vocal to say we need some measures to make sure that our investment in it is really paying off. And so I really do look forward to seeing what you're going to do.
Look forward to talking with you more.
And I wanted to say welcome to Port Angeles. We look forward to your leadership. We look forward to your insight. And actually, you really picked up on something because, yes, we have an agreement. Our former councils from Sequim and Forks and Clallam County, we came together. And 4 years ago, at the 10-year anniversary, we renewed that commitment to economic development as a community. So I appreciate your, you picked up on that very quickly. So we welcome you very much, and we look forward to working with you. We look forward to good things. Our community is growing. This is the year that we can see our progress, that we worked so hard and laid the foundation. Things are coming to fruition, but we have to keep pushing it uphill, so once we get over the hill, it'll start rolling downward, and that's your job. Help us push it over the hill, so thank you.
Thank you. Brad.
Well, while I was sequestered out of the executive session, I had a discussion with Bob. He did twist my arm that I'm going to be attending the fall and winter EDC meetings, so I'm looking forward to getting re-engaged in that. So, thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
All right, back to the consent agenda more formally.
Yeah, I'd also like to hold item E3 for discussion.
Okay. All right, we will have full E3. We have full. I would like to really put back into the I'm going to put back into the E6. Let me read.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like a chance to comment. I'd like to pull E6, please.
E6. So that will stay pulled. All right, let me read that which remains. The consent agenda, City Council meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2017 as amended. Expenditure report, April 22nd, 2017 through May 5, 2017 in the amount of $2,411,742.33. Civil Service Commission, David pulled that. The Opportunity Fund Advisory Board appointment, John Brewer. The Washington Hospital Services contract. And number 7, BPA Emerging Technology Field Test Participation Agreement. All those in favor?
Motion to approve as read.
Second.
And I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
So I've got a question on page E54. And this was just something that I guess it started making me think. It shows that we had the number of claims on there. And I would like us to see if we can get some more information in general. Every year, how many claims do we get so that we begin to understand that picture better? So if we could have that. So I guess it's not a question, that's a request. And then on page E73, that one I do have a question on because it's at the very bottom of the page. It says that we will provide reimbursement to Clallam County for documented CHEPS expenses, including unit design, procurement, and installation costs up to $40,000. And so I don't know whether maybe I've missed something as I was reading it. If you can clarify that for us, I would appreciate that.
The intent is for BPA to reimburse the city for these costs. So it's a pass-through.
Okay, so it will be a pass-through. I just wasn't sure when I read that. I thought, well, I think I missed something. Okay.
And I'd just like to add, as Vice Chairman of the UAC, that was, I thought, discussed the last Tuesday, actually, that it's pass-through funding. Looks like nothing but a win-win, and I'm quite sure it will result in an energy saving for the county.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other further comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion to pass the consent agenda as presently read, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Okay. So let's go back a couple of steps to consent agenda item E3, the Civil Service Commission appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment. I felt it was important to highlight this and bring it to the attention of the council members and the public. We have two candidates for filling two positions, Danetta Rudden and Penny Sanders. I was interested in this because prior to being on council, I had also sat on the Civil Service Commission. And that's one of those commissions where you may sit for years and absolutely nothing happens. And that's good when nothing happens on that. But when something does happen, it's usually not good. And it's a very challenging time for the person that's sitting on the board making decisions. And I look back and I can't help but think Danetta Rudden was also on another board recently that could have had the potential for many years of absolutely nothing happening, and that was the ethics board. But she sat on that, and it did have something happen, and it affected her life personally and emotionally, and took time away from her retirement, but she gladly followed through on her commitment. And what's happening now? She's volunteering some more. And I just wanted to commend her. She's not here tonight, but I think it was important to make note of that extra commitment. And also with Penny, a wonderful lady that could just be retired and enjoying life for many years, but no, she steps forward and volunteers her time and efforts and talents, and I wanted to commend her. I also had item 4 marked for to make similar comments for Mr. Brewer, who's here. I won't repeat everything you just did, but thank you too, sir, for taking your time in retirement to step forth and do stuff for your community. It truly is appreciated. And I'd make a motion that we approve item E3.
Second. Okay, let's do this one at a time then. Motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda item E3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Passes unanimously. It takes us to E6, I guess it is. The Clallam County Economic Development Corporation 2017 contract. I think you asked me to take a moment to discuss that first.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Schroeder, I'd like to personally tell you thank you for coming up and trying to make a difference in our community. I don't want you to take anything that I say personally. Our community has had the EDC for a number of years around here, and I guess probably that's where I've gotten my present situation with the EDC. So I'd just like to remind council members that might consider this, that I didn't support this in the 2017 budget adoption late last year. And as I said then, Nathan West technically is our EDC guy. That is what his job description is. So I don't think that we need to double down. If we're going to double down, maybe we could use some more police officers. Maybe Chief Dubuque would like some more firefighters besides the 4 that came into place tonight. I'd like to see that the EDC have a better relationship with our community. I can be persuaded in the future, but right now I'm voting. I will not be voting in support of this because of the past, and again because of what I'm hearing in the community based on the history of the EDC in our county. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Deputy Mayor King, and then Mike.
I'm happy to support this evening. Our normal expenditure was $20,000 in the past. So I'm kind of embarrassed. It's been reduced down to only 5, but I support this. I appreciate Mr. Schroeder being here. If you'll take a look at the material he's passed out, and if you'll take a look at the 2017 Board of Directors, these people are giving their time and their effort to help our community. There's a lot going on, a lot of positive energy. $5,000 is such a small amount for us to partnership in the Economic Development Council of Clallam County. For that, they have several members of their staff. We're getting so much. We cannot hire a new fireman for $5,000. We cannot hire a new policeman for $5,000. We cannot hire an assistant to Mr. West for $5,000. But we can step up and say we are part of Clallam County's EDC, that the other cities and the counties and Oregon and businesses have stepped up. So I've watched the evolution of the EDC. I watched private businesses step in. I've watched so many business leaders step up with their own time and effort to collaborate. So good things are happening in our county. I expect the EDC to be a good partner, and I look forward to hearing from you, hopefully quarterly, and we can hear what's going on. But I'm doing this as a that we get more than enough good results and out of this partnership. I think it's more than worthwhile. I will be supporting it.
Michael?
I had an opinion made up, and then when you stepped up there, you stepped into something that I would not have supported in the past. And at this moment in time, I don't have the intention of supporting until I see what's produced. $5,000, you're right, Miss Kidd, it's not a lot of money. We're not going to buy a lot with it. But we've continued, in my opinion, to throw a lot of money at this over the years, along with other public entities, and I haven't seen the results that would get me to throw $5,000 at it again. And that doesn't mean that in the future, I would not be willing to look at that. But I also understand, the same thing Lee said, that this is nothing personal against you. You're stepping into a new position and trying to hopefully bring your own perspective to it and grow that EDC. And I'm sorry, I will not be supporting that tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Brooke.
Well, as I mentioned, I probably have been quite vocal with these guys as to trying to get some results from the EDC. And I know we had made a decision as a council to slowly reduce the amount of funding, because when we did our priorities, I guess so that you understand, when we did our priorities, that was one of the things that fell at the bottom of the priorities as to what government does. This is the 5,000 we promised that we would fund, and then it'll be continue to be reduced so that you know what's coming. But I really do look forward. So I will support this as it is, but I do look forward in the future to seeing how, I guess, self-sustaining you can be, and then how we as a city can partner with you, not financially, but in other ways potentially to be able to do that.
I saw Councilmember Case, you'd like to share a comment?
I'd also like to share a couple thoughts on this. I have had a very unique opportunity to experience some of the workings of the EDC and economic development as a whole just in the past few weeks in my new capacity. And I was actually surprised at some of the things that I observed and learned. You're exactly right. Nathan is our city's EDC guy, and that's an important role, and I think he fills that to a pretty doggone steep degree of quality and time input. I also find that there's a lot of other components to economic development that goes beyond just the city limits and Nathan's job. The county has a lot of involvement with development. The port has a lot of involvement. And I found out firsthand that the EDC is kind of a clearinghouse, a go-to entity that can take the information that Nathan has and that the county has and the ports gathered and fills a role firsthand just a month ago. We needed information, we needed it quickly from the state level. It would have taken an amazing amount of research, time that I'm certain Nathan didn't have available because he was sitting in some of the other meetings accomplishing city EDC portions of this package. And we called the EDC, and the next morning we had all the stuff we needed, and it had a profound effect. So this is just one little example, but it's part of a big picture. And I think that while we agreed to reduce the funding over the 3-year period down to the current $5,000 level, I would certainly hope that our new CEO can really demonstrate over the coming quarters and the future next year or so that in this time, as we start to grow and gain traction from all this work, that we would actually justify more of an involvement and commitment to the EDC.
Mr. Collins, and then I think everybody gets it. Everybody gets a chance. So let me hear from Dr. Brad first, and then Lee.
Well, what I'd like to do is point out that the EDC over the last few years has transitioned from a publicly dependent organization to primarily a private dependent organization, and it's changed its name from council to corporation. And I supported that move when I was actively involved in the EDC, and I think they have made great strides in that. And I'm quite proud of how much the private sector has stepped up to what the EDC does. There had been criticism that we have the port as a as an economic development engine in our community, but they remain a public property development, economic development agency, and so I see room for all of these, and that's one of the reasons the State Department of Commerce continues to fund private economic development. I think that Nathan does a great job, and I believe that by working with other businesses and other public agencies like the port, it makes his job easier to accomplish the things he needs to do. And I know that he sits in on those meetings when I can't, and I really appreciate that, and I think he takes great, we get a great deal of leverage as being the city of Port Angeles in the broader community, or the broader North Olympic Peninsula business community by doing that. I'm encouraged that those that have been critical and are ready to see what happens and see where we go in 2018. I'm not in favor of phasing out our contribution, but that's where we ended up, and this is the final contribution as far as commitment that's been made. And so I understand and appreciate Councilmember Brooks' support of that. I, like Councilmember Gase, feel like we need to see what happens. Our budget process is starting practically now, so it doesn't give Mr. Schroeder a lot of time to figure out where his contributions are going to align with what the City Council's expectations are. But the fact that we're open-minded, I think, is great, and I appreciate that we will be watching and supporting and collaborating, and I'm hoping that we will remain a partner in that process.
Okay, Mr. Whittam, and then we'll seek a...
I'd just like to comment on the fact of the revenue streams from the 3 different governmental agencies. The City of Port Angeles receives tax money. The county receives tax money. The Port of Port Angeles receives tax money. Each of these entities have someone like Nathan on the job. And if someone is thinking of setting up business in any of the jurisdictions that I've just mentioned, they have the appropriate people on staff at this point. The past history is, I'm going to guess and just say millions with the S, plural, that has been spent on EDC. And therefore, we've gotten to the present climate that the community, from the people I listen to, has pretty strong feelings against the EDC. So this collaboration is great, but again, if a specific business is coming in, they're going to talk to the jurisdiction that they're looking at setting up shop at. The way I understand any new business that's coming into the county, Nathan's in the room. So again, I just want to make sure that everyone understands the funding stream.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign the attached Economic Development Corporation contract and make minor modifications as necessary.
Second that.
Okay, we had an Alcatraz second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion to approve item E6 in our consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any?
No.
Okay, that passes 5 to 2, I believe. Is that correct, Karen? Okay.
Thank you, Stacey.
All right. That will take us to G, ordinances not requiring council public meetings, hearings. Ethics ordinance and council discussion. This is a continuation of earlier council members' meetings. This is found in packet G1.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'll start with a little bit of background. In 2002, the city did adopt an ethics code. It was adopted in part to address the behavioral expectations of the city's elected and appointed officials. This code added a new chapter to the city's municipal code. There were no complaints filed under that new code until February of 2016, and between February and May of 2016, 4 ethics complaints were filed, all alleging council members have violated Section J of the code. As you do recall, these complaints came during a very controversial time for the council. Unlike other boards and commissions that routinely meet and have established practices, the Ethics Board did not meet prior to filing of the 4 complaints. Because of that, and it was the first time the process was used, council agreed that once the complaint process was completed, the council would review how the process worked and make adjustments if needed. So on March 28th, council held a work session to review the city's current ethics codes. During that work session, 3 options were identified, and what council directed staff to do after those options were identified was to get feedback from the board members that participated in the process, get their views on the options, including a gatekeeper, and bring those comments back to the council for further discussion. So in your packet, you have the options that were discussed, you have the feedback from the board members, and after you have discussion, if you, what staff is looking for, if you want to make any modifications or any changes, give that direction to staff, and we can bring back ordinance changes at a future council meeting, if any. So with that, I'll turn it over to the council for discussion, and staff is available to answer
First
any
hand I
questions.
see is Sissy.
Well, thank you for this report, but I must admit that you've given us a little bit of everything, and everybody in the different committees has supported a different option as well. And they're all well documented. So of the 3 options, I must admit that I would say at least 2 of them sound really good to me. Going with the Washington state law, if we follow the state law, that would make it easy. We would just be following what the state law says. Or to retain our current ordinance. But I do know that our Section J was an issue. And that's another one that's kind of questionable. So it was good to have it in there because we put it in there to, kind of get some behaviors in check, but it's gotten all of us into trouble, one way or another. So at this point, I think I would either go with 1 or 2. So that's where I'm leaning towards, but I'm open either way. There's just too many options here, and I think they all have good points and bad points.
Next up is Michael Meredith. I think I also saw 3 hands over here.
My first choice is to support option 1, and I think we need to get back to basics. You start reading through the ethics ordinance and everything starts to get so complicated. I'm not sure that we need that. And as a compromise, I would settle on number 2 with the removal of Section J, but that would be my second choice. And I'm not for 3 at all.
Not 3, okay. Mr. Gase and then Mr. Whitten.
I would also agree that option number 1, I'm fine with, following the state law and having some uniformity for the ethics issues across the state. I'd be in favor of that. I've switched my position with regards to number 2, removing Section J, and I'm actually not for that as I was in the past. And the reason for that is that we all agree that Section J was the section that gave us the heartache and caused the problems. So let's get rid of it. What if it's a different section that causes the problems the next time? Are we gonna just get rid of that? So I'm thinking, as opposed to just getting rid of the piece that got us frustrated and in trouble at that one point in time, option number 3, the gatekeeper, would really fix that issue. If there was something that was just felt to be frivolous, it went through and was presented to an appointed person that's sitting on the bench, I truly believe that they can make the shot, or call the shot, that it's either frivolous and it should be dismissed, or it should go forward for a full ethics board. So my preference would be option 3, but I would be fine with option 1.
Mr. Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to say that I value all of the input from all of our citizens committees, and it's 2-2 here as to what they advise us to do. Personally, I favor option 1, which is going to go back to what the state legislature describes how to do our ethics. And if we do that, in my opinion, I don't even play an attorney on TV, but I don't believe there would be, I do like the discussion that came forward about the gatekeeper, but I don't believe a gatekeeper would be necessary going under option 1, because we're working under legislative rules, which apply across the state to many different, I would imagine, governmental agencies or city councils. So mine is option 1. I like the discussion of the gatekeeper, but I don't think it's necessary because we have state law that covers that.
Can I make a correction real quick?
Yes.
I don't want to speak a second time. I agree there. I misspoke when I said option 3. That was the appointed board. That is not at all. I'm in a full agreement. It was the gatekeeper, which I guess would be an option 4. It just wasn't stated as that. So just want to make that clear. I'm not in favor of option 3 at all.
Okay, Brad Collins.
Well, I agree with Judge Williams. I think that there was a lot of frustration with our process. I thought that it was costly. People who actually made the complaints complained about the process. They said it wasted their time as well. So I believe that option 1 is the best choice. I recognize there's problems with Jay. I think even the person that spoke in favor of keeping the process also spoke against Jay. So for me, I think there's a growing consensus that we need to get back to option 1. It's supported by our insurance authority, and if we want to revisit it, as Mr. Judge Williams suggested, that may be a process we can take on, but probably happen after I'm gone. So I'm all in support of option 1.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Kent.
I concur with Councilmember Collins. Former Superior Court Judge Ken Williams supported prefers option 1. And he says that the purpose of the state statute is to create a statewide uniform law, and I agree with that. I think option 1 is the best option.
Michael, we haven't heard from you.
No, we did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, we haven't heard from Pat, did you?
Option 1, I'd settle on 2.
I'm sorry, you're right. Well, I would concur. I do sit on board with former Superior Court Judge Williams. I found him to be a very thoughtful individual. I don't take his opinions in counsel lightly. I had to agree with what appears to be the majority consensus this evening that option 1 is our best form, our best step forward again at this point. But Would the council agree with that consensus?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we direct staff to come back with a revision towards option 1. And if we need to do anything else, we'll pick that up at another point in time.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded that we forward to city manager our support of option 1. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, council. That provides clear direction tonight. Thank you.
That takes us to resolutions not requiring public hearings. Item Agenda H, a strategic plan for 2017-2018. Approved. Oh, all right. I would be in support of that myself, actually. Let's take a 5-minute break. Can get started with it without leave. I'm going to exercise the opportunity to turn the balance of the presiding meeting to our deputy mayor. She would lead us through the remaining portion of our council meeting, beginning in resolutions H1 leading to our adjournment, if you don't mind.
Okay,
I
on
would appreciate that. It would be
H1, our
helpful to you.
strategic planning for 2017 and 18. Mr. McKean, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Just a little bit of background. We had planned on moving forward spring of 2016 with the strategic planning process. We had a lot going on back then that would have diverted our attention from that process. So we did, a year later, move forward with a strategic planning process with the council. We basically met to go through and come up with some key initiatives that the council felt was important so that it could help influence our work plan as well as influence our budget. And what we did, we met with the facilitator. We gave the facilitator instructions that we needed to come up with the 2 to 3 key strategic priorities that we as a city could focus on during the next 1.5 to 2 years. This is one of the times when council was given homework, if you can recall, and one of the big portions of the homework was to go through the city's comprehensive plan, cover to cover. And in doing that, council was given the task of rating some of your top goals and objectives that came out of the city's comprehensive plan. And then the facilitator took everybody's input and distilled that down into those 2 to 3, in fact, in this case, 3 key strategic priorities for the council. And so what you have before you tonight is the document on one page that puts those down. And we have a resolution for you to adopt that by resolution. And then again, that document will be used to help influence our work plan as well as our budget.
Thank you. I'll read the resolution and the council can discuss it. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Angeles, Washington, accepting the strategic plan for the years of 2017, 2018. Mr. Thomas, please.
I just want to commend our facilitator. I thought she did an excellent job. I thought the council worked hard that day. I think we did reach a fairly high degree of consensus on how to proceed. And I think the work that's reflected on page 4, I think is a fair summary of that. So I'm going to move the resolution as read, but I'd also like to add that I think we should form a small committee of council people who would volunteer to create a couple of 3 or 4 sound bites that we can put on the wall. And I will volunteer be on that committee, and I know who else might volunteer to be on that committee.
Could you explain the committee a little more succinctly?
What I'm suggesting is that, as the city manager mentioned, we wanted to come up with 3 or 4 key ideas.
Okay.
And I think what we need to do, the page is great, it works fine for the council, but I don't think it's easy for the public to digest. And so, if Sissy or others would join me, I would like to have a committee that would try to create a summary of those 3 or 4 key points in a way that the public can see it every time they come to this meeting hall. So that my motion is to approve the resolution as read.
Is there a second?
I'd second that motion, and I'd also volunteer to be on your committee.
Okay. Any other volunteers for the committee?
Sure.
Sissy?
Yes.
You were.
I might have to call in.
You were
because
kind of pulled
yes.
into this committee.
I would happily do it.
You were volunteered for. Okay. Thank you very much.
I'd like the committee to start in July.
Okay, that's fine. All right, it's been moved and seconded to pass the resolution adopting the strategic plan. Any further comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke.
Yes, I guess for the public to understand, there's a lot of things in here that there's actually actions and measures. So this is probably the first document that has actions and measures that we can move forward. As you'll know, a lot of these have been, a good chunk of these have already been done. And I guess it's because the document was created a while back and some of them have already come to fruition, which is great. So, but at least, like I said, I'm a real proponent of having measures. And this begins to do that. It begins pointing us, actually it begins in some ways that we can evaluate ourselves to see whether we're doing the job or not, you know, and how well the job gets done. And that, I think, is more valuable than anything else. So I will be passing this.
Yeah, I'd like to also say that for the public's benefit, it was 2 really long, grueling days for the workshop. There was a lot of effort put into it, and I wanted to commend the staff, because most of the staff was there too, and they sat through all that, and they remained fairly silent and allowed us to just blew all this stuff out, and we had dozens and dozens and dozens of ideas and thoughts and things like that, and to get it down to 3, I just wanted to commend Dan for helping pick the right facilitator and helping lead us through. So I think it was very
Also
successful.
recognize there was a citizen or 2 that came to the room as well.
That's true. Councilmember Whittam.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kidd. I'd like to go back on this and discuss how this was put together. There was no consensus from council members. There was no direction from either city manager, mayor, or deputy mayor as to where this would be held. This was not held at a city facility. My wife works for Olympic Medical Center. I felt I did not want to go and attend the meeting at OMC, yet the meeting proceeded without any input allowed from any other council members. I took some heat from someone specifically in the audience for not attending, and I just want to set the record straight as to why I was not in attendance. Councilmember Brooke, I do support your ideas. I do support that, but because there was no leadership involved with making sure that all council members were comfortable attending a off-site work session, I will not be supporting this evening.
Mr. Mayor.
I will be supporting this. I was not at the meeting, and I spoke with Dan as to why not. I did do the homework there, and I will touch on that during council reports. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Deputy Mayor and Council, I would like to address the location. There was a lot of thought that went into location, and the rationale behind the location was that this was designed as a retreat/strategic planning session, but we also recognize most retreats occur in a location that is somewhat remote from the city or in an area where the council can get off by themselves, roll up their sleeves, and get some work done. And it was important to staff to get it out of City Hall so that everybody could just focus on the effort at hand. But we wanted a location that would be right in the city, that citizens could attend, but in that type of environment. So we purposefully put a location together that was what I would say somewhat strategically located within the city, but again, got away from the City Hall environment. So right or wrong, that was the rationale behind that. And I did have discussions with the mayor on that, as well as some staff members, but it was, there were some that actually, there was some feedback that some would have liked it in a more remote location, but again, it was not done because we did want more citizen involvement. We did have some citizens and council candidates that showed up.
Mr. Collins, please.
Well, I just wanted to say that Sissy and I did meet with the facilitator several times. We did try to organize this thing. Like Mr. Witham, I didn't know where it was going to be. I didn't have an objection to where it was going to be, but I think we owe an apology if that was a problem for him, because I never knew where it was going to be. So.
Okay.
And I guess to comment to that, I know that, I mean, we asked staff to do things for us, and that was one of the things we've asked them was to put together this, to facilitate this meeting. So, did we ask them specifically where it was going to be? No. But we did ask them to put it together, you know, to do that for us. So in that respect, it was in the newspaper. I kind of felt like, well, you know, I think it got announced. I wish that, you know, we had known your objections earlier about that.
No one asked. No one asked.
It's true. No one asked, but I guess.
There's no leadership from either manager or mayor, vice deputy mayor, so.
Thank you for your comments. It's time to vote on the motion. All in favor of the resolution adopting the strategic plan for 2017, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right. That's excellent. Thank you, Council. Let's move on to H2, Combined Sewer Overflow Pump Station 7, Reconstruction Purchase Agreement and Sole Source Resolution. And that should sound like Mr. Fulton.
Thank you. Yeah, this council memo revolves around a sole source procurement resolution for flow metering equipment to be installed within two of our CSO outfalls, and in the future in some of our pipes leading to pump station number 4. The background in this is part of the CSO program was to rebuild outfalls 6 and 7. And that was based on estimated information on flows and performance of the CSO project. Through the winter season, we found out the CSO project performs much better than expected. And when they looked at the actual data, the engineers determined that CSO 6 can be closed off. And CSO 7 outfall does not need to be rebuilt, it just needs some minor modifications. One of those is replacing the flow metering devices in the outfall, and that's approximately $38,000 for the metering devices. There is an additional about $5,000 to install a backflow preventer to prevent the tides from going into the outfall. So. Good news story is we've been able to reduce the project from $160,000 down to about $45,000. That's the background on this. Getting to the point of the memo is to approve a sole source resolution for procurement of ISCO Teledyne metering equipment. This was metering equipment was installed throughout the CSO project. The current flow metering devices from ADS are about 10 years old. They're failing, they need to be replaced. The city staff did a review of the flow metering devices out there and came to the conclusion that we've been using these Teledyne ISCO meters for several years based on the technical support we've received, the training. the webinars, it would be standard software throughout the city, standard parts, standard processes. It would be to the best benefit that we continue using these flow meters in the CSO project. And more importantly for right now, outfalls 6 and 7. With that, I will take any questions you might have regarding the meters or the 6 and 7 outfall project.
Councilmember Brooke?
So, and I do know, I apologize because I was not at the last UAC meeting, which I'm sure this was discussed at. But when I read this, I was getting the meters and the project, I think I'm fine. The part that I'm not fine with is the sole source. And I guess until you just said that fact that we have a lot of those. I know it was mentioned that we had some, but I think your description right now is making me lean, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. And I guess I didn't see it in the report as to the fact that there's that many in the city and it would be great to have similar equipment. But right now I'm going through a construction project at work, and I do know the importance of the sole source. I mean, of not having a sole source for federal funds or for governmental funds, because we want to do what's the right thing for the people's money. So I had, like I said, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with the sole source, but you're putting it into the points of, we have them now, we have a lot of them, we want to maintain the same thing for the sake of maintenance and ease of use. Are there anything else that is leading you, or, I mean?
The other thing, their ease of use is right now, ADS Consulting used to provide the oversight of all the flow metering, installation, maintenance, repair, data collection. They had that for about 10, and we said, done. 2017, we finished, and we're taking this all in-house. So one of the things is these Teledyne meters are fairly simple. City staff is installing them, city staff is collecting the data, and city staff is maintaining them and repairing them. If we go to different flow meters, we will have to learn new systems, new metering devices, how to install them, how to maintain them, how to collect the data, different software compatibilities.
Right, so
It
you're
just
opening
it becomes a lot more complicated for city staff to now do it in-house if we have a mix of meters throughout our system.
So I would say that with that, that's a good argument that we can actually put financials to, is to the time or staff. So that, I think, it's good to know that if we can argue the case that staff time adds to the cost of the learning curve for these specific meters, then yes, it makes sense to do sole source. And so I appreciate that. So I guess in reading this, it didn't quite come across that way. So thank you for the information.
Thank you. Mr. Woodham?
Craig, I completely feel for you. So Councilmember Brooke, controls and data collection, there's only so many manufacturers in the entire world, actually, not just that would work here on the Olympic Peninsula. Where I run into problems is mainly dealing with Siemens. So Siemens can control the heating, the cooling, the air circulation in a public building. When they typically have a portion of the building, they get the remainder of the building, unless staff has reached the point that they're going to cut ties with Siemens and go to an all-new product. And that opportunity only exists when staff has gotten to the end of their rope or we're starting on a new venture. So no, this is proprietary. We need to get these parts that the staff is requesting. It's going to make the quick, fast mesh up that Craig is describing. It's the right thing to do. In the future though, when we are looking at any kind of data or type of control systems, there are some, like computer programs, that are universal. Now, I don't know about their reliability, I don't know about their serviceability, but I do know there are things that are universal out there, but it's an unknown. I'd actually pick my deal with the devil as to the proprietary parts that are required that staff is asking for. It's the right thing to do, so I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, please.
I'm also going to be supporting this. I agree with Councilman Whittam. I think what the situation is that we had a $160,000 project. We found out that we had good stuff and our staff was ready to go, and we could change that through sole source to be $38,000. I'm all in favor of that.
Okay. I'm going to read the resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Angeles, Washington, authorizing the city to purchase flow monitoring equipment and associated accessories through Whitney Equipment Company of Bothell, Washington, being a sole source provider.
Motion to approve is read.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve this purchase agreement. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, council. That's good. And now we're moving to I-1, ASME Parks and Maintenance Seasonal Labor Wage Increases. Abby, good evening, and thank you for your patience this evening.
Thank you. I currently sat the furthest away from the podium as I could get. Yeah, so tonight I am presenting a memorandum of understanding between the ASME union and the city. And what it revolves around is in the 2016-17 union contract with ASME, we moved the parks seasonal laborers to the ASME salary schedule. Prior to that, they were on a parks recreation salary schedule, and they are represented by the ASME union, so we moved them to the ASME union. And also, we agreed that we would increase wages for our park seasonal laborers. And as you I'm sure remember, the Washington State increased its minimum wage to $11 in 2017, and eventually up to $15 in 2020. So the city is being a bit more proactive in trying to increase the seasonal parks laborers' wages. So what our proposal is, and what the union and the city have agreed to, on your approval, of course, is that we will add, right now they start at range 4 as it is because it's above that $11 threshold of minimum wage, is to propose a 3% increase. So they will start, so for 2017 and 2018, we have the salary schedule according to this memorandum of understanding set so that in 17 and 18, the wages are set, but as we move forward with the ASME union and in negotiations, we will definitely be discussing it more so that we are by 2020 in line with that $15 minimum wage. And so with that, I'm asking for the council to approve this memorandum of understanding.
Comments? Mr. Collins, please.
I guess I'm just naturally talking to you tonight. I'm not sure why. I think that it's good that we are following the state's lead on what we're doing with minimum wage. I think that the fact that we have this agreement, we're working proactively, as you suggest, is a good thing. I think it also, when you're competing for laborers at minimum wage, it's nice to offer the wage that will attract the seasonal part-time workers. So I think that it encourages people to take our jobs as opposed to, having a difficulty finding recruits to do some of this work. It's a little more hard than a lot of part-time minimum wage jobs. So I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding allowing the city and the ASME union to sign the MOU.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Whittam, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to follow up to Councilmember Collins' comments that this is actually taking place because of the minimum wage increase. That's why it's not on a union contract. This is the proper thing to do to address that. That's been set forth from the legislature. I do support this. Obviously, I seconded it, so it's the right thing to do here, folks.
Any other comments? It's been moved and seconded. We approve the seasonal labor wage increases. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. Good job, Abby, appreciate that. Thank you very much, Council. Moving on to J1, this to me is a very exciting project. We've been talking about this one for a few years and it's moving right along. Mr. West, give us the good news.
Madam Deputy Mayor and Council, this item is relative to a grant that the City of Port Angeles received to implement a redesign of Ray Street to ensure that we have a complete street approach for the Ray Street corridor. It is one of our most heavily traveled corridors within the community, and it's important that we get it right. We have a significant number of visitors who drive that corridor on a regular basis. Again, this is grant funded. The Federal Lands Access Program has provided us with a design grant. The City of Port Angeles issued a request for proposals. The request for proposals actually received 5 responses. We had a team put together who actually did the scoring that was comprised of engineering staff, planning staff, Clallam Transit representative, as well as a National Park Service representative, selecting the consultant for the design. I will tell you it was very competitive. We had a number of excellent proposals and it was a very difficult choice at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the selection was for Alta Planning and Design. And at this time, we are asking for council approval for a $462,340 contract for professional design services.
Mr. Collins, please.
I have had a chance to talk with some of the people at the National Park, and they are planning to also piggyback on some of this and improve their signage and their design to make it more welcoming and more visible for the visitor center. So this is, I think, going to be the start of a very good friendship. That's a good thing.
This has been a topic we've discussed for several years in the PA Forward Committee, and so exciting to have the grant and now come through, and now the actual professional services agreement. I mean, these one of these things that just, it kind of been in a fog for years, and now, here it's becoming reality. That we have over 3 million visitors a year using that corridor, and it's approaching 4 million. So we really need to make some improvements. This is exciting. Any other comments, Mr. Widow?
Thank you.
I wanted to finish my comment.
I'm
by
sorry,
saying
sir.
It's part of our strategic plans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Collins. Mr. Widow.
Thank you. Nathan, when will council get input on this design that's going to come out from this contract?
That's a great question. So there's a number of opportunities along the way. We do have check-ins at 30, 60, and 90% design. In addition to that, we anticipate pushing this out to the public, holding public meetings, and the public outreach component was a significant portion of what the design firm built into the proposal at the end of the day. So it's really important that we do some good public engagement on this project, make sure we get it right. And we do have 4 million traffic counts annually in this corridor.
Okay, which leads me to my next question. Has any thought been given to any overhead crosswalks or underground, something that could prevent what Lincoln Street has became?
At this point, we haven't anticipated any overground crosswalks or overhead crosswalks or underground at this point, although, again, we're very, very early in the design, and I wouldn't rule anything out. I think we have a very creative team dedicated to this project, a number of local professional firms that are also involved as part of the contract, and I can tell you that this team's very committed to getting creative.
Yeah, I just think the one crosswalk that's between the Dream Playground and the actual bleachers there, when there's an event, that's a lot, it's highly used, and if we're going to plan for the future in this town, we have to anticipate larger numbers using either facility on either side of the road. And I'm pretty sure the road's going to get wider as this plan goes forward. So I'd really like to see that addressed, because we have a number of crosswalks in town that we really should take a second look at. And I don't want to add this one to that list.
No, thank you for those comments, and I will say a primary goal of this project is to make that corridor more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
I've got a question.
Yes,
I got actually a couple of
Councilmember
them. So when the RFQ went out first, you had 2 respondents. Who were they compared to the 5 that you got the second time?
So the first 2 respondents were HDR and Zenovic and Associates.
Okay.
And we did feel that it was very important for council, but also for a successful project, that we have a deeper pool of applicants and proposals, and at the end of the day, we did get some additional very high quality proposals. And again, most of them were extremely high quality and very good proposals. It was just, Alta really rose to the top.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The other thing is, I do agree with Mr. Witham that I would like to see this come back. You have, I know the first task on the list is the conceptual street design, which I'm sure they're going to go out, get some public input. I would like to see it at that stage. Once they've gotten the public input at the conceptual, I would absolutely like to see the 30% as well. So if we can get it at the 60 and the 30% aren't going to change that dramatically, but the conceptual and the 30% I think are the most critical points for us to take a look at that.
Mr. Collins.
Well, I think we were very successful with waterfront development, particularly in the outreach, and I think it paid off in big time. My children and grandchildren have been major users of Civic Field and the Dream Play Field and the soccer field that's used for practice there next to the skate park. My daughter was also a skateboarder, but I would like to second 2 things that Mr. Whittam said. One is that I think the council would like to be engaged in the design review significantly. I think it's important. That's why it's in the strategic plan. I think we did that with the waterfront development, and I think we all felt we had some ownership to that, and I think that's great. And I do think that there is a real need to have the crossing between those 2 recreational facilities made as safe as possible.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, if I could interject real quick. The city, in the last council packet, there was under information about a new crosswalk that we just put in between Civic Field and Erickson. We got the money from REIT this winter. We just noticed too many people almost getting hit there. And so we put a new a push button crosswalk that when you hit the button, it lights up on the LED lights. And I can tell you it's quite impressive, and I've seen dozens of people use it every time I've been over there. So it's a great addition, and it's a lot safer.
Where is it located?
It's the crosswalk that's in between Civic Field and the Erickson Playfield.
Okay.
And it really helps with the people coming south. As they're merging in, they can actually see the folks in the lights.
I'm going to take a good look, because I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. Good. All right, we're all ready. Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor? Do we have a motion on the floor?
Brad made one, right?
Brad, did you make a motion, Mr. Collins?
I did. I didn't read the whole thing, but
Okay.
I did make a motion. I move we approve the professional service agreement not to exceed $4,340 with Alta Planning Plus Design, Inc. Authorize the city manager to sign the initial 0 to 30% design agreement and subsequent supplemental 30 to 60% and 60 to 100% design agreements, and to make minor modifications as necessary.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, moving ahead. This is exciting. Race Street Corridor. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited. So thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. West. All right, time for council reports. So we'll start with Mr. Collins, please.
I'm going to be visiting my granddaughters in Pennsylvania for our 2 meetings in June, so I'll be calling in for those meetings. If you would excuse my absence, but allow me to call in, I'll be
Then you won't be absent.
I won't.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Whittam.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council report tonight is the halibut have seemed to have moved out of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. I've gone out 3 times and have not yet located any.
That's That's distressing. Okay, Mr. Gase, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Last Saturday, I had the honor of joining in and visiting our police department volunteers that went out to McDonald's for Coffee with a Cop.
Oh, cool.
The new program. I wanted to commend the police department for coming up with that idea.
Yeah.
I think you guys did a great job. Had a nice group of officers there, and I think the public really enjoyed visiting with them. I understand that McDonald's bought coffee for all the citizens that wanted to talk, is that correct? And they also wanted to buy the coffee for all the officers, but they didn't do that. Officers insisted on paying their own coffee. So I just want to let you know, found a source that's going to be putting $100 into your coffee and breakfast fund. For the next time the officers go out, you can not only get coffee, but breakfast also, so you don't have to pay for it yourself. Thank you for that. Also, finally, wanted to bring up a reminder, the Wings of Freedom tour of the World War II bombers will be here June 21st through the 23rd. So please mark your calendars. That's the B-17, B-24, B-25, and B-51 that'll be out here. And that evening, the 21st, will also, in conjunction with the port, there'll be lots of other festivities. No-host barbecue dinner and a band playing, and Coast Guard looks like they're going to be out there with a helicopter for static display and a car show, all kinds of fun stuff. So hope you can join us. Thanks.
Mayor Downey, please.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to participate in the town hall meeting recently on the opioid issues and concerns of the public. Requested of the council to host a meeting where the public could come and ask questions. The professional community was there and well represented, those that are serving as providers. I want to thank those members of the council who joined with me in being there that evening. I thought that the opportunity for our citizens to come together and talk about a very, well, actually overarching public health issue was a good start. About the questions were candid, the responses were candid. I think people have a better understanding how terribly important our community wrap around together. If we're ever going to resolve this issue to any degree at all, we'll have to come by us working together, both as citizens and as professionals. And I think that we took a step forward in that direction at that meeting. I'm very glad I was there.
Yes, thank you for facilitating that. That was important to a lot of people. We had a great turnout. People are coming to Port Angeles. I've had an opportunity to welcome some cruise ships on Wednesday night, and I go around and talk to the people where they're from and why they're on this cruise. They choose to come here specifically. They're lovely people. It's an expensive cruise, and they want the smaller ship, and they want the smaller towns, and they love Port Angeles. They love our underground tour. They love our downtown, and they get to take a trip to Victoria. They love the mountains, and it's just so exciting to hear and see from people who are New York, Texas, Mississippi, California, just, wanting to come and see Port Angeles. So, and we have some wonderful local entertainment. I mean, just the best. So that's fun. And this week, as Spree is in town, I welcomed the ladies last night. And they're here for a week, and they're going to shop till they drop. They have raised, I think on their talent night, those funds go to hospice. They've raised over $50,000 for our volunteer hospice in Port Angeles. And so, they enjoy the hospitable environment of Port Angeles. And they come from all over the United States for a week, plan their vacations to come to Port Angeles. Angeles. So I saw tons of boats during halibut fishing season. And unfortunately, the weather wasn't good, but we sure got a lot of boats coming into Port Angeles. So people are coming to see us, and that's great. Mr. Meredith?
I also attended the meeting, the town hall meeting last Tuesday night, and I was very pleased to see the turnout. I had some concern that a lot of people may want to put up a good talk but not show up. And there were folks all down the hallway, and it was a great time to get something started. But by no means, in my opinion, is that the finish. We have quite a ways to go with that. Next thing I want to talk about, I'm not sure when the video for this meeting goes out, but I want to encourage anybody that wants to run for city council to run. And you don't have to be a business leader. You don't have to be part of a good old boys club. You don't have to be part of anything. I work full-time and then some, substantially some. I'm a single parent with 3 children. They have events that oftentimes I miss, and once in a very rare while, I missed our last meeting because there were 3 things going on with all 3 of my children on the same Tuesday. So it can be done if people want to do it. And Lee has said this to me more than once. This isn't always a working man's position. There are times when I have commitments to my employer because that's what provides for people, but I don't want anybody to be discouraged because they can't do 100% of everything. Because nobody's ever going to do 100% of everything. And you can ask a lot of people that know me, God, I've tried. But it doesn't get you very far. So anybody that wants to run, throw your hat in. This is an exciting week for me. I like to see who is all signing up in the paper every day, new faces, and I saw a couple of those faces here earlier tonight. And I look forward to listening to them at the debates. Thank you.
So I was at the farmer's market with Dan Gaze. We had a lot of folks come up to talk to us, but I was amazed, we had a lot of new folks and people talking about how they've moved to Port Angeles and moved here. So I know that our demographic is changing, so we know that that's happening. It's just really, truly happening. While we were there, we came up with 64 banner ideas that Young wanted us to, he's like, you guys got to come up with 64 ideas, so we did.
You came up with most of it. You're brilliant.
But we did it. And the other thing I'd like to let you guys know, I will be out of town starting tomorrow, and I don't know when I'll be back. My dad's not doing well, so I'll be in Maryland, and I will probably be calling in as well. So that's where I'll be.
Pennsylvania and Maryland are close. We could be on the same phone call.
So the other thing, I will encourage you guys, I did take the underground tour with Bruce. It was a great show. Really encourage everybody to do that. I also definitely have been to the Esprit Talent show. It is worthwhile going. It was absolutely worthwhile going. So, and I will second that anybody who wants to throw their hat in, yeah, it's work, but it's really worth it. You're feeling like you're being able to give it back to your community. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Council. City Manager report, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Just a couple items coming up in June, actually June 20th through the 23rd. We have the annual AWC conference. It is the largest conference that the Association of Washington Cities puts on. It's a great conference for new or even seasoned council members. They have a myriad of subjects, a lot of contemporary subjects that are of interest to council members. So if you are interested, get a hold of Carrie. We have budgeted for 3 council members to go to that. And the deadline for the early bird registration, we save money by doing that, is May 22nd. And again, there are a lot of great topics. We also put in your mailbox a schedule of the conference, so you should have that in your mailbox. Also, just a reminder, we have an upcoming work session a week from tonight, starting at 5 o'clock. It's on boards, commissions, and committees, and that should be a really good work session going through all of those. And again, that is a week from tonight. For action items based on tonight's council meeting, we will be bringing back to you modifications to the city's ethics code based on council discussion tonight. So we should be able to bring that back 2 weeks from tonight. And I also have one item that Director Fulton will be providing a verbal update on an upcoming open house.
So as you all know, what is next week? It's Public Works Week.
Of course.
So,
of course.
as part of
that wasn't part of this.
Yes.
Leading into, so finishing off Public Works Week on Friday afternoon, we'll have an open house of pump station number 4 showing it off. We'll be giving tours through the pump station. It is quite impressive, and it's not what you would think a pump station might be. It's clean, it's tidy, it works tremendously well. Some of our contractors will be out there to give tours. There will be some finger food, so hopefully it'll be a...
We would expect nothing less from your pump stations.
There we go.
I can testify. I've actually had a tour of the pump station, and it is incredible. You do want to go.
We want to go. Pump station.
It's a great show. So that's next Friday afternoon. And this week, as everybody knows, and I'm just ad-libbing here, Bike to Work Week. Everybody's ready to work. It started out with great success Monday morning with a breakfast boost at OMC, coffee, danishes, giveaways. We had about 25 to 30 people show up, 2 families with little children on bikes, on carriages. It went really well, and then it finalized for yesterday's event at Red Lion. We had transit bus out there demonstrating how to put bikes on the bike racks. That was a demonstration on. Police volunteers were out there registering bicycles for easy identification if they're lost or stolen, and then ended up with a family bike ride along Olympic Discovery Trail, and we'll do another family bike ride Wednesday evening, starting off the monthly family bike rides on Wednesday evenings throughout the summer. So dust off those chains and
Super.
get going.
Put air back in my tires. All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. City Manager, is that the completion? All right. Super. Thank you so much. Now it's time for our second public comment period. Bill Wilson has signed up. Direct your camera at the front. Down there.
You weren't supposed to see me doing that. I'm Dale Wilson, P.O. Box 817 here in Port Angeles. First of all, I would like to thank the police department for the foresight to bring out the town hall meeting last Tuesday night. Great turnout. Sorry to say I didn't get to attend it, although Papa did cover it. Shout out to Richard. Thank you, Richard, for covering it that night. I want to let you know that the town hall meeting will be on Papa tomorrow night at 6:30. So any of you that know somebody that wanted to see it and wasn't able to make it, you can make them aware of that. Papa also covered the presentation by the Department of Ecology that same night at that same time. 3 or 4 wonderful ladies came down from the Department of Ecology and said, it's only been 17 years, but just give them a little more time, and the next 17 years we're going to get the harbor cleaned up. Also, like to those of you that have not seen it yet, there was a march for protection of the climate. There were 700 people showed up down at the pier and then made a lengthy march through downtown, making wonderful comments to the camera as they came by, and that too is available on Papa. And all of these are archived or will soon be, so you don't have to watch it at Broadway programming. Go into special presentations and watch these in your leisure. If you wake up, like I do sometimes at 3 a.m., scurrying around the house in your bunny slippers, you can go right there and watch any of these. One other thing that I've talked about before, and I want to bring it up again, some of you may have noticed in the daily paper recently, the people in Port Townsend floated a 2-story building from Victoria to downtown Port Townsend to address their housing problem. We here in Port Angeles are about to destroy 32 absolutely perfectly good homes because we lack the kind of leadership that they have that says we need the homes, we're going to do everything we can not to let them be destroyed. Now, as you may know, the city has to approve a comprehensive plan before that can happen. Now, if 4 of you will stand fast and say, we're not going to destroy those homes, we believe too much in getting affordable housing for everybody that needs homes. So if just 4 of you will refuse to pass that comprehensive plan until they do something more creative with those 32 perfectly good homes besides destroy them, then we can show the leadership that they've shown in Port Townsend as well. We do have a serious housing problem here. We need affordable housing, and to pay tax money, good tax money, to destroy them is unforgivable in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to comment on our public comment period? If you would state your name and address, please. You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Harvey Kalin. I live in Squim, Washington, 160 Lane. I'm here again, this 3rd time in 4 weeks, and I always come as a bearer of bad news, and I'm sorry about that. Public speaking is not my strong suit, and I'm a reluctant public speaker, but I feel obligated to say the things I have to say. 4 weeks ago, out of the blue, there was 50 Tomahawks were released on another country. Fortunately, no Russians were killed. I pointed out at that time that we have on the Peninsula 1,300 nuclear weapons. If there's a real conflict, that'll be over. 2 weeks ago, the White House warmonger parked an armada off the coast of North Korea. He overflew with B-1 bombers, nuclear equipped. I mean, what could be more provocative than that? And fortunately, though, since that time, in the last 2 weeks, there's a new moon rising on the Korean Peninsula. Moon lay in, and he's going to do something about this conflict. Because sometimes it just takes a really compassionate human being to end a conflict. This is the most intractable conflict, and I think he can do it. And I would sure like to see the peninsula, this peninsula, party with their peninsula for peace. I raised that 2 weeks ago. I'm here again today because there's a third issue, and that has to do with, again, with the warmonger in the White House. He's going to send thousands of more troops to Afghanistan. Why are they there? After 15 or more years now, why are they there? Well, I've got lots of pictures now showing American troops guarding the poppy fields. And those poppies come here as heroin on American aircraft, on cargo planes, and it's distributed by the CIA. And if you have a drug problem in this county, it's because of this. It's all over the country. You're being sandbagged by the U.S. government. And so I think, this city is being destroyed by its opiate problem, just utterly destroyed. And you people could make a huge difference if you would speak out against the warmongering craziness that's going on in the White House. All of this is related. All this relates back to 9/11. All of it, this is very purposeful. And there's a drug culture being perpetrated. There's it's affecting us economically, it's affecting the health system, the law enforcement system, and we're just being sandbagged by the feds. And if you would speak up, it would make such a difference. It would galvanize the city to fight back against those who are just trying to destroy us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who care to make public comment? All right, hearing none, I'll need someone to make a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Moving second. Anyone, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for attending your Port Angeles City Council. Good evening, good job, council. We're adjourned.